Hello and welcome to the ATF Cast. Is a car in office? Find out tonight on episode 17. We're here with the classic co-host, Matt Halava. How you doing, Pa?
Doing fine, Sonny boy. How are you?
Not too shabby. I've got a good friend in the audience today. Well, not in the audience, right up here on stage with us, if that's what you want to call it.
Where is he?
It'd be hard to miss with all that ginger on his face. Please welcome Gunsplaining.
Sick Nick.
Hello?
Hello.
Hang on a second. Either my audio's messed up or you're coming through like a chipmunk.
It could be both. I'll just let him stare at the screen there for a moment. And he's gone.
All right. Well,
he'll be back.
Our special guest co-host to the co-hosting he maybe went under an overpass or something.
Probably overpass predicaments.
Yeah.
Back. Mobile office Rick. How you doing, bud?
Well, that didn't fix much. You sound like a cricket.
Oh, well, thank you. I've been told that in the past, but...
Or maybe like whale song slowed down real far so people can hear it. I don't know. It's crazy. Apparently you guys can hear me, so that's good, but it's all it sounds like is clicks. Or what is that language that's clicks?
The one from
sounds
the
like clicks. All right, I'm going to restart this thing again. I'll see you guys in a second.
Okay,
all right.
Bye.
So, while he's gone, he knows the situation this evening, so I suppose we'll inform the rest of us. This is our deep dive episode. That's going to be like a 50-minute, not very deep dive about the historic revocation of firearms rights. What happens when you remove the power to defend yourself from the people and things of that nature. So,
shall not be infringed.
Hashtag no step on Snick.
And not every country has that, so their Snick gets stepped on.
It's true.
Yeah, what you drinking, Sonny boy?
Oh, well, you see, I'm drinking Outlander. It's red wine from Aldi.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good, pretty good. It's got that vanilla-y situation, you know. I usually go for a Cab Sav, so now a classic red. I'm not so used to that, but it's tasty. What are you drinking?
I am drinking some of a little something.
A little something. That's like my favorite brew.
So, little something is an IPA. Trying to remember the name of the company.
Lagunitas.
That's it. I almost said Lagunas or something, but I knew it wasn't Lagunas. Lagunitas.
Laguentas.
Yeah, that.
Let's check back in with Rick, see what he's drinking. Maybe he can hear us now.
Hey. Well,
that must be a good sign.
Yeah, I'm not drinking because I'm driving, but I am drinking an energy drink.
Is that the one that makes you really itchy?
No.
Oh, wait, that says Jocko on it. Like the Jocko?
Like the very one, the Meathead Jocko. Yeah.
Where does one obtain a Jocko beverage?
The Vitamin Shoppy.
Yes.
Yeah,
you must be on the classiest out of town.
Easton, baby. I buy them 12 at a time and stick them in the fridge at home.
So, are you headed to work out or something?
No, I'm on my way to a Bible class.
Oh, well, that's
which
very
starts
nice.
at 7. Yeah, it'll be good. I hope. It better be.
Yeah. Hey, I thought I told you.
Right?
Well, so you got about 47 minutes to cram some information. Did you do any studying? Because I didn't.
I did a little bit. I printed off a thing from the internets, and I highlighted the things that I thought was important, that I thought were important, though I didn't get second sources. So I don't know. I did a little bit, more than nothing, but not a whole lot more.
Well, then you get to start us off on this conversation, since you are the educated friend of the ATF Cast.
Well, that's flattering of you.
What do you are an almost graduate anyway in English.
Very nearly. I wasted a lot of money on that almost degree.
And look, it's paying off now.
Yeah, right. Dividends, I tell you.
So what can you tell us about humans and the right to bear arms and fight and stuff?
So what I got was from Times website, so take that with a grain of salt, but it was a chronological list of gun laws that were passed in America. And the very first gun law that they say was the Second Amendment, which, yeah, I guess that's technically, that's accurate. It's a gun law. It's not a gun control law. It pretty much says that all other gun control laws don't exist. But
correct.
Yeah, right.
That's my favorite.
But they've been trying for 5 pages past that one to tell us that in fact other laws do exist and are fine. So according to them, the first gun control law was the Second Amendment. After that, they list the 1934 Gun Control Act. Although I am sure that there are laws in between 1794 and 1934.
Not a whole bunch, actually. There may have been some on the state levels, but nothing on the federal levels.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I thought for sure that they were. See, so there's my bias. I am taking everything that Time says with a grain of salt because I know, or I have assumed what their reader base is, probably doesn't care about nuance that promotes gun ownership. So there we go. There's my bias there, right there on the table. So the second law is the 1934 Gun Control Act, which imposes a $200 tax stamp on machine guns and suppressors and some other things. Let's see. There was a quote. The quote is from Roosevelt's New Deal for Crime. It was meant to curtail crimes of that era, such as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Yeah, so way back then, they were using crisis to promote their agenda.
Well, times were different then as well.
That's true.
So as times change and society changes, you would never have seen a speed limit sign of 65, because max speed was 55 or whatever, right? So as things develop, things have to change. But the fundamental rights of the Second Amendment should always maintain a constant.
I agree with that. That makes sense. That's a valid perception, or not perception, perspective that I hadn't thought about. It's true. Times do change. Things do improve, or at least, yeah, I guess you could call that an improvement, although some people wouldn't.
Right.
That's about all it says about the Gun Control Act.
Yeah, the Gun Control Act, the first one was due to the automatic firearms that were easily bought at any store, right, by anyone, which I think is fine, especially if they're a law-abiding citizen. But unfortunately, some of the criminals of the time became quite famous because they were outgunning the police easily. They step out of the vehicle with a Thompson machine gun, and the police officers at the time had a wheel gun. They have a 6-shot revolver. So
Tommy guns and Browning automatic rifles and
right.
Yep.
And before that, like I said, there were other laws like town laws and things of that. You see in the Old West movies, someone riding in the town, and the sheriff and a couple deputies come up to them. They're like, "Hey,
check your guns.
You can check them in at the police department and or the sheriff office, and then when you leave, you can pick them back up. You got to check them in." So there were local and some state laws, but nothing really on the federal level until that one.
That's interesting. I figured there would be more.
I could be wrong. I'm not that old.
You don't remember when they passed the 1934 GCA?
No, and my first float in the Marines was not with Noah.
Man, imagine how salty he was. stuck on this boat with all these animals. Ah.
That's good stuff right there. So we started with the first firearm law, which was the Second Amendment.
Yep.
Which is the cool one. Thumbs up, no step on snake. And then we progressed on to the 1934 NFA Act, National Firearms Act, which put a $200 tax on automatic weapons and suppressors, which I guess based on the finances back in that day actually had a reasonable boundary put in place to acquire those things, when $200 is really just an inconvenience today, but it still upsets us. And also, hey, shooting gallery.
What's up, Joe? I haven't talked to him in ages. I was thinking about him the other day. Not in a weird way, though.
I was going to say, that's romantic.
Yeah, so moving on. Matt, here's one you probably know about, but I don't. I never heard of this one before, but that's the 1938 Federal Firearms Act. And this was the first time that the federal government required firearm dealers to obtain a license.
Okay.
This article says that the Firearms Act was repealed in 1968 because the Gun Control Act of 1968 replaced a lot of the parts of it. But I didn't know that one even existed.
I do remember, not that I was there, but I do remember that was enacted. And like you said, in 1968, the new laws that were written enveloped that and took some of that on and rewrote a lot of it. So
I think this one had something to say about a lot of it was what's the word? Not amended. But they had trouble with the constitutionality of this law. Maybe it was a different one.
Was it redacted, or we'll take this out?
Yeah, right.
It wasn't in there.
Rick's actually thumbing through a bunch of Sharpie documents.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
see, that's funny you say that because my printer did leave a big black line at the top of all my pages.
They strike again.
Yeah, right.
That's
I'll show
just my
these guys.
clairvoyancy. I can see that happening.
It was either that one or 1939 Supreme Court U.S. versus Miller. One of them had, dang, what's the word I'm looking for? Conflicted with the Constitution, so they changed some stuff. And then in the thing about 1968, it says that a lot of the constitutional issues had been fixed. U.S. versus Miller says that short-barreled shotguns have no reasonable relationship to the preservation or efficiency of a well-regulated militia, and thus cannot be guaranteed the right to keep and bear such an instrument.
Well, that just seems silly.
Right, but it is an interesting point. So a sawed-off shotgun with 2 shots or 1 shot really isn't like something you're going to be issuing to a militia.
That's true. That's absolutely accurate.
You say, you really can't have that for a militia. What you do need is militia-type firearms.
Like automatic weapons with suppressors.
That's
like
true.
Automatic firearms, semi-automatic firearms. Your made-up phrase of assault rifle.
Yes.
So that is an interesting debate. And they say, well, a militia really wouldn't have this. And you're like, well, if you're allowed to have the firearms of a well-regulated militia, that would be your ARs, your AKs, your whatever
M1s,
else.
Right. All that stuff. So
all that stuff.
You say that to those guys who are like, oh, well, that's not what we meant. Move on.
Right.
That's funny.
That's not what we meant. But we never mean and say what we do, because we don't want you to see what we do when we mean or say anything that we don't want you to know about that we said.
Yeah, that's how they come up with flowery names like the Patriot Act.
Right?
Yeah. How could you not vote for the Patriot Act? What are you, unpatriotic?
Yeah. You have to be patriotic to give up your rights.
Right. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. No, don't. The patriotism is maintaining your rights.
Yeah, right. Something about a tree of liberty or blood, maybe? I don't know. So the next one is the Gun Control Act of 1968. And the things I highlighted said It fixed constitutional issues, but it doesn't say what those were. Added language about destructive devices and expanded the definition of machine gun. So I'm curious to know what that means, especially in light of the ATF's proclivity today to call binary triggers machine guns and the stupid stock, whatever that thing was called. They're calling that a bump stock. There we go.
Right. The bump stock, the definition of the machine gun or semi-automatic is for every time that the trigger is depressed, one shot will be fired.
Yes.
Right. So that's a revolver as well.
That's true.
So whether the revolver is cocked and the single fire, that's one shot, that's a revolver and anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Your automatic weapon is as you depress the trigger once and you maintain the trigger back in the fire position, it maintains a cyclic rate of fire. So the firearm is going to be like a machine, like a sewing machine, and maintain a cyclic rate of fire until such time that it's out of ammunition or the barrel melts. So
I wonder what
about a jam, right?
No, right.
So
that makes me wonder what the definition of machine gun was prior to the GCA of 1968.
It would be interesting. I'd have to
Google
I'd like that on three different levels to see what they all say.
Right. When I teach my electrical apprentices, I always like to share with them history of things. Like the example I always use is GFIs. So if the house was built in 1990, there's probably only one of them. And anyway, without going down that road, if you find out how things were in the past, you can understand why they are the way they are in the present. And so, if we could go back and find out what the definition of machine gun was prior to the Gun Control Act of 68, we might understand more clearly how to fight the creep of inclusion of things like bump stocks and binary triggers in the definition of machine gun today.
Right. Well, and like that argument always pops up with freedom of speech and freedom of the press. Right. So,
yes.
Well, when it was written, they only had muskets. Well, they had muskets, and there were other things that fired more than one shot at a time and in a cyclic rate.
That's true. They also had private ownership of cannons.
Correct. But if you say that the Second Amendment was only written to maintain what was around at that time, well, then you have to use a quill and ink to write your letter in cursive, which a lot of people don't know anymore, and stamp it with your wax seal to make sure that it's closed, and you send it by
a courier.
Type of courier,
I'm actually not largely opposed to the
Express. That was amazing.
It was amazing.
You would have to keep everything back then. So then new inventions are going to be not governed or not brought into the fold of that, right? So freedom of the press, they can only write things out and you'll hear about it in 3 months because it's going to take that long for you to get it and read it.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, we're well beyond that. There's no putting that genie back in the bottle. So
no.
So there's no way you're going to get ARs and anything else off the streets either. They exist now. They're here.
Correct.
And I would like to point out, the Gatling gun was first invented in 1862. So if that holds true, then get rid of the AR-15s and provide us with hand crank Gatling guns. Fine. I'll tow it around.
I mean, I do kind of like those Tippmann. Is it Tippmann that makes those 9mm Gatling guns?
Yeah.
I'd buy one of those if I had expendable income like that. Those are cool.
We'll put it on the list.
Yeah, right?
One day when a Gatling gun isn't a machine gun because it's crank operated. So it's trigger. Each shot, you're only getting one shot out of the barrel.
Interesting, and that kind of takes us back to how they defined a machine gun prior to that 1968 enactment of the law. Oh, we're gonna have to do some research on that and come back.
Yep.
I agree.
think it was Ruger that had the double-barreled 22 Magnum revolver.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So
Yep.
their trigger pull is horrible, and if you look at the trigger, it looks like two triggers. Right, so it takes two fingers to actually pull the trigger.
Interesting.
So I believe, seeing how one trigger pull could only fire off one shot, or it'd be a machine gun, I think they had to design the trigger that way and make it a certain trigger pull as far as your pounds.
So two fingers, two trigger pulls, two shots.
Right.
Yeah, but it's still technically one action of the firing mechanism. So that is such a gray area.
In a little they wave that one through.
Right.
So,
do they still make that gun, or is it gone now?
What's that?
Does that gun still exist? Are they still making them?
Yeah, they're still making them.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if they'd gotten in trouble.
No, to my knowledge, they're still in production.
Okay. That's cool.
They're kind of neat. They're kind of weird. They're kind of, but.
Yep. If I was going to collect guns, like if I, beyond practical guns, if I was going to create a niche of guns, I would collect oddball, screwy things like that.
Yes.
For sure.
I like to have that in like a Dardic 1500 and Whitney Wolverine and some of those other weird things out of the 60s that don't really make sense, but were still guns.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
I can see that.
What was that?
The fun stuff.
There's like the belt-fed, like kind of a magazine, kind of a revolver. I don't know. Forgotten Weapons did a video on it. It was like a weird rotary, like elevated system.
The Dardic?
I don't know.
Is that the one? You should pull a picture of that up on the screen. Maybe that's it.
If you tell me how to spell that, I'll do it.
D-A-R Dick.
Understood. I think this might be about what I'm thinking about. Maybe. Hold on. Got to make the picture bigger. I feel like there's also another one that kind of landed in this realm of things, but yeah, hold on. Let me pull it up here. Y'all keep talking.
Okay. So I don't think that the Dardic 1500, if it had been an export, would fall under the category of a sporting purpose, which is the next provision of the 1968 Gun Control Act. It says that the bill banned importing guns that have no sporting purpose. Oh, that's the end of that thought. So as an aside, well, the next thing is a different thought. It says imposed age restrictions, but we're not ready for that yet. So prior to 1968, sorry, not prior to 1968 was, the point I was going to, there's the Dardic 1500. It shoots Trowns.
I remember that now.
Yeah, that's like a weird.
Yeah,
the
it's like
ammunition's very odd. Is it?
It's called a Tround.
A Tround.
I think it was intended to be caseless, but they had issues or something like that. Yeah, I believe. Maybe they weren't caseless, but the cases were plastic. Oh man, I don't remember.
Sounds about.
But they're triangular shapes, and there is an ejection port. I think. Yeah, there is an ejection port, so something comes out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I want one. Moreover, I'd love to have some ammo and actually shoot
there's the ammo for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just a weird kind of like thermoset plastic, probably case. Interesting.
I don't know why you couldn't 3D print those these days and make your own ammo.
Well, Rick, I reckon you probably could. That's a mouthful.
Maybe I should ought to.
Yeah, I'll ask you about your 3D printing adventures later because I almost did, but we got to stick to the task at hand, boys.
Yeah, right. So back to the Gun Control Act of 1968 and sporting purposes. The reason why Glocks, Gen 3 Glocks had finger grooves is to fit into that sporting purposes category and be importable. They had finger grooves and adjustable sights, and those all added points to a system that allowed a gun to meet the sporting purpose category.
That's ridiculous. Come on.
It's absolutely ridiculous. They did that with there were a couple other like big name guns. You'd be like, oh yeah, that they had sporting purpose garbage added to them so that they could be imported.
Mm-hmm. Or sport to the name.
Oh yeah, right.
You know, you just put sport and hey sport, and now it's a sporting gun.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like putting GT on a car, and suddenly you got a touring car. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
It just means go today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that like STOP is an acronym that means squeal tires on pavement?
Yes.
Excellent.
Oh, you guys are both getting up there, aren't you?
Shut up.
Or ABS, additional bullshit. So,
yes.
Just another computer chip to break on your vehicle.
Yeah, mine's broken. I was wondering why the
nice.
light was on, and looked in there. The fuse is just pulled out of its place in the fuse box and set off to the side, so it kind of looks like it's still in a fuse position. And I was like, oh, that's why it doesn't work. Plugged it in, and the module's fucked up, so it just went meh. So I unplugged it and I closed it, and now it's fine.
That's awesome.
But
Hey
anyway,
man,
guns.
would you rather fix it with a $2 part removal or a $2,500 trip to the shop?
A hammer.
Yeah, there you go. Put some duct tape over the light on your dashboard and you're good.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in months. It's still glowing. I just haven't looked at it.
That's perfect. The last thing I highlighted on this paper about the 1968 Gun Control Act was that it required that all manufactured or imported guns have serial numbers. So prior to that, you could get a gun that didn't have a serial number. And I believe that, Matt, tell me if I'm wrong, rimfires didn't have to have one until later or something like that?
Yeah, I think rimfires were the last ones to be indoctrinated into that.
Okay.
Just because typically your rimfire were smaller calibers, and you know, you're just out there shooting a squirrel to try to feed your family.
Right. And that's the last thing I have on the 1968 Gun Control Act. So there was a lot of stuff in that one. That was a big blow to our freedom.
And also, in the big scheme, like all just so arbitrary, dumb little things that you just add a sport to the name or whatever, and you skate around it, and then it's not really a predicament.
Right.
Annoying. It's like a splinter in the foot, but it's really just absurdity. As far as law is concerned, it's not doing anything.
Right. Well, the death by 1,000 cuts. One little splinter won't kill you, but 1,000 of them might. You have a thousand stupid laws, and eventually people get tired of playing the game.
And it depends on their attitude when they become tired.
Yeah, right.
Are they going to knock the game off of the table and flip the table because they're upset, or are they just going to,
take their ball and go home? Yeah, right. I don't know. Eventually, somebody's going to flip the chessboard. I feel like that's got to have to happen. I just don't know when. I figured it would have happened by now, but maybe Americans are more tolerant than we should be, which I guess speaks of our character, but not of our conviction.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are more tolerant, and a lot of us are like, well, the NRA is fighting for us. No.
Yeah, right.
No.
The poor average person.
There's other groups that will do it, and my senator. There's a picture of my senator skeet shooting. That doesn't mean that they're not voting against you.
Yeah, right. Obama had a picture shooting a double barrel.
Right.
Oh, shotgun's all you need, brothers.
Buy shotgun. Buy shotgun.
Buy shotgun. Illegally fire 2 shots into the air.
Yeah, right. And
then trying to figure out how to reload it if you're not efficient with it.
You're right. Double barrel shotgun.
Which brings me to a quick point that could explode into a large point of law should be written by people who have an idea and a knowledge of what the law needs to be, what the law is about, and that they actually use some type of product, or they know the equipment, right?
They need to know what the fuck they're talking about.
Totally
I don't know
agree.
if you guys have seen the videos of the senators in like the last Facebook privacy situation.
Right.
They don't understand what the internet is. They don't even know what Facebook is. They're like, how do you get on the internet? What is the internet? Do I get on it on my phone?
6 months ago.
Well,
You're right.
And that's why you're not leading the country, Paul. But I mean, these guys, they're like, So, what is Facebook anyway? Do you drive your car into it? Like, you're making the laws for something that you have not even a sliver of an idea about because you're 8
Right.
years
You know,
old and
they
have
pick
dementia.
up a firearm and they say that this gun here can fire 1,000 rounds every second.
Mm-hmm.
No,
That's a
that's
hell of a
bomb,
cyclic rate.
right?
That's some good engineering.
The 30 magazine clip in half a second.
Yes, I mean, you know, that's a Claymore mine. So
Yeah, right.
or a Jumping Betty.
A bouncing Betty.
Alliteration's
she
dead.
bounces. It just depends on her hip size.
Oh,
But I don't know. Thank you for correcting me. You are
I'm
correct.
sorry. I don't mean
No,
to be
you're
that
good.
guy.
Damn English boys.
I can't help
That
myself.
guy.
That guy. Fucking that guy.
But because it's disappointing to see, and it's so stressful to hear someone say, "Well, we're going to restrict this rifle because of that flash suppressor up there makes it more deadly."
Right. They have no
You
understanding.
can't have a flash suppressor because it creates it more deadly. That's like putting an extra something on your vehicle.
The supersonic deer,
like the idea of putting
whistles.
Stripes on your car makes it faster. Every
Exactly.
decal adds 5 horsepower.
Right?
Yeah, right.
You put some LED lights in the wheel well, and now you can go Mach 7.
That's exactly how that works.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw it on Tron.
It's real. I saw it in Hollywood.
Yeah, right. The Hollywoods, and they know everything about guns. That's why you don't ever have to reload. You could just keep pulling the trigger, and it keeps blasting.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our next gun law.
I held one once, and it weighed as much as 10
boxes.
10 boxes of what?
I forgot about her.
10 boxes of air, 10 boxes of feathers, 10 boxes of lead, 10 boxes of what?
10 large boxes that if you were to be moving things, you might put them in these things, the boxes.
You ever move a bookshelf? That's not how much an AR weighs.
Not even close.
Correct. So
I agree with you that laws ought to be written by people who utilize the equipment that the law is legislating. I also think that they ought to be written at like a 5th grade reading level.
Yes.
Einstein, I believe, said, don't quote me, I know it was Einstein. He said, if you have an idea and you can't explain the idea to a 6-year-old and they understand it, your idea is too complex.
I have it here. The direct
Something
quote.
of that nature. It's not verbatim, but that's pretty wise advice.
If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough.
Correct.
Yep, I like it.
Gentle etiquette. Yeah, so yeah, like I'll be like, okay, we just had this law passed. Let me go read the article, the actual government document that tells me what the law is.
And it's 700 pages.
I understood my MRI results a lot better than I understand any fucking law I've ever read, and that's medical jargon.
Yeah.
A bunch of itises and shit.
Inflammation thereof. Yeah, man. I think I know for a fact they do it on purpose. If they obfuscate what they're doing, it's less likely that you're going to catch them in their trickery.
This guy just said obfuscate. We got to kick him out of here. You're one of them.
I got to be like them to understand them so that I can fight them. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
I'll allow it.
Oh, tender moments.
Thank you.
Give him a hug.
That's right. I don't trust you, bitch.
Hey, yeah, that's right.
I don't trust you. You want to go out Thursday?
That's exactly right.
Actually, we do have lunch tomorrow.
We do have lunch tomorrow.
We have lunch tomorrow. We'll throw some darts.
I got to keep an eye on you.
So what year are we up to and what amount of bullshit?
1986 is the next law.
Okay.
The Firearms Owner Protection Act. The first thing I highlighted was that it prohibits a national registry of dealer records, which is awesome. So it's illegal for them to do what they want to do. Which brings me to the Oh, the Hunter Biden laptop situation. Not the laptop, but the gun he bought. So, man, it's been a while since I read into that one. So
Well,
he
the gun
bought
Go
bought
ahead.
illegally. He bought it illegally, ditched it, but then later on, Secret Service went to that FFL trying to scam them out of his 4473, and they're like, no, you can't have it. And since then, they've been trying. The ATF has been trying to push for digitized records of Form 4473s, which is supposed to make things safer, but really just makes it impossible to get rid of the evidence, if you want to call it evidence, that you bought a gun, because once it's in the cloud, it's there forever.
Well, the thing is, if a FFL, Federal Firearms License company, goes out of business, they send all of their paperwork to the ATF or the FBI, right? The FBI. Now, all that paperwork goes to, I don't know, some old mine in West Virginia on a pallet and gets shoved somewhere and categorized under 232 AC4X97 as pallet, blah, blah, right? So the reason that we're supposed to maintain a 4473 to begin with was to verify that the person is not a felon, that they are legally allowed to possess a firearm.
Right. Isn't there something about those paper 4473s and the magic number of 20 years?
Yes, you're supposed to maintain them for at least 20 years, right?
And then the FFL can destroy them. Yes? Or no? Is that wrong?
That I will double check on, because
Okay.
that's been rewritten a couple of times, but I believe
Oh, interesting.
That may
I
have
mean, if I was
been,
an
and then it may
FFL,
be rewritten that you have to keep them forever, right?
yeah, right.
So
I probably wouldn't be rushing out to burn mine if I had an FFL, just in
no,
case.
because if you burn them, then you're you're going to lose your license. You're going to be fined. You're facing federal charges and imprisonment.
And
so you have to follow the federal regulations. Now, if you go out of business, or let's say you change your FFL from someone who just sells because now you want to manufacture, that's a different FFL number. So now all the stuff that you did under your first business,
I didn't think about that.
West Virginia.
Yep.
You start over with the new number, right? So by rights, all that stuff's just supposed to be paperwork. Because if a crime is committed and they recover the firearm that was used in the crime, obviously the firearm didn't commit the crime because they're not evil.
Right.
The firearm that was used to commit the crime, they contact the manufacturer and give them the serial number and say, where did this gun go? And they go, oh, we sold that as a manufacturer. We sold that to this supplier. So then they call the supplier, and that supplier says, well, we sold it to this other wholesale supplier. So then they call them and they say, where'd this gun go? And then they say, well, we sent it to Nick's Firearms. And then they call Nick's Firearms and say, hey, where'd this gun go? You look through your records, if you still have them, and you say, well, it was sold to this individual on this date, and that's the information. And they go, okay, thank you. So now they contact and follow up with that person, right? Because they may have found the gun that was used in a crime. That person's now a suspect, but you may have sold your gun to Evan. Evan may have sold his gun to someone else. They sold that gun to someone else, which is all legal. And then that gun was stolen and used in a crime, right? So now they're doing paper trail and working their way through all the branches and everything until they find out who the last person was to possess a firearm.
I'm curious to know how often recovering a firearm with a serial number led to a positive conviction. I mean, I'm sure it's happened, but I wonder, maybe more accurately, what the ratio of success and failure is. Because I'm sure that they hit a lot of cold trails just on that one example. Well, I sold it to this guy. Okay, well, now there's no more record of it.
Right. Or even if you were the first civilian to have possession of it, the first owner, and it
Mhm.
was stolen from you, and it's on the police report that it was stolen, well, that's the end of their trail at that point too.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
it's just a way to follow a serial number if that serial number is found in a crime.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the thing with that also is what the ATF is doing by photocopying everything and digitizing it, is they're categorizing it.
Mhm.
And that is a registration, which is illegal. You
Right.
cannot have a firearm registration to protect us. So any firearm that I may have bought, any of the 2 or 3 that I own, would now be on a list. So if they look me up, they'll see what I own. That's not the way
Yeah.
they're only supposed to be able to track the serial number to help solve crimes.
Right.
Or if they find a firearm on someone, they look at it, they find out that it was a stolen firearm, then they follow that process again. They call
Mhm.
you and say, "Hey, we found your firearm." You're like,
Cool.
"Oh
Let
my
me
God,
have
that
it
was
back.
stolen 3 years ago. That is
Uh-huh.
awesome. I can't believe you found it." And you say, "No problem. We're shipping it to your local sheriff department. Go there for a background check and get possession of your firearm again."
Sweet. I
So
figured
now
you
you
wouldn't get it
go
back.
and you get another background check by the
Uh-huh.
sheriff.
Yeah, right.
Then they relinquish your firearm back to you. But they have to make sure that you haven't become a felon
In the
from the time that
meantime,
yours was stolen to when they're going to give it back to you.
sure.
So there's always a background check for everything. There's
Even if you get
redundancies in there. And when they say that we need universal background checks, it's just common sense gun laws. You need universal background checks. They're
Yeah,
already
right.
established.
I was gonna say, how is it the proposed universal background check any different from the actual universal background check we already have, whether illegally or not?
Right?
But that brings
Because
me.
votes matter
Yeah,
to
right.
those that are trying to acquire the votes so that they can maintain their illegal income.
They like the what's the word? Oh, darn it. Consensus. They want
Yes.
everybody to be on the same page, whether they mean it or not.
Mm-hmm.
There's another law in here. Oh, we're skipping ahead a little bit. It's I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. It's TIAHRT. It was his proposed amendment. No, yeah. And it stated that the ATF was no, oh, dang it. It's hard to read because I got a black line through it.
You're not supposed to read that.
Yeah, I know. It was supposed to prohibit the ATF from publicly releasing data showing where criminals purchased their firearms,
Mm-hmm.
so that information couldn't go public. That's kind of
Right.
not the same thing we're just talking about, but similar.
Correct. Because they want to be able to protect the gun shop owner, right?
Right.
If I owned a gun shop, I'm a blue collar guy. I'm trying to make a living. I'm trying to provide for my family. You don't make a lot of money dealing with firearms. People are like, "Oh my God, you got firearms. You got to be making." No, you make minimal amount of money. You're
Mm-hmm.
keeping your lights on. You're keeping food on your table. Maybe you can help your kids go to college, right? Now, unless you're a huge corporation or something.
Right.
But the majority of the FFL people are just trying to make a living.
Yep.
So as soon as it's discovered that, well, where was that gun sold? Well, it was sold at Matt's gun shop there in Ohio.
Yep.
Now you got people out front protesting Matt's gun shop. Matt's gun shop's now losing sales and anything and just
Yes.
ruin the business of someone that had nothing to do with the crime.
I specifically remember that same thing happening after they caught the Beltway snipers. I don't remember what the name of the gun shop was, but they censured them, and I don't think they stayed in business too much longer after that. I'm pretty sure they're not in business these days.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were ran out of business.
Right. So I wonder, when was that? That said, 2003. When were the Beltway snipers? 2001 or 2? Something like that.
Yes.
So I wonder if this law is a result of that. I don't know. That would be worth digging deeper into, I think. That'd be kind of cool.
2002, Beltway snipers.
Ah, there it is. So maybe it is a result.
October of 2002.
I remember hearing those news reports. Yeah, those guys are crazy. But then I thought it was kind of, well, how do I say this without sounding like a psychopath? Like, I'd like to shoot out of the trunk of a car, but just not at people.
Cool. I was worried there for a second. I was like, oh, this is where it goes off the rails. That's fair. It's like Bill being concerned that you're in the clock tower alone.
Well, he is sitting in a vehicle.
Right?
Concern reinitiated.
Ah, there it is. All right. I've only got a minute or two left, guys. So let's go to 1993, which was the Brady handgun bill. And then that established the NICS background check system.
Yes.
1994 was the assault weapon ban, the 10-year assault weapon ban. It makes a point to say multiple attempts to renew the ban have failed, which is kind of awesome. It specifically called out a lot of firearms that were illegal to be manufactured. It says, including AR-15s, Tech 9s, MAC-10s, etc. It limited magazine capacity to 10 rounds during that time period.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't have any more on that highlighted. Then there's that 2003 Tyar, or whatever his name is, bill. 2005, George Bush signed the PLCAA, which we've been hearing a lot about in the last year or two, because they were trying to repeal the PLCAA in wake of the Sandy Hook shooting. But they was it Sandy Hook? I think it was Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook, I think. That
Remington just settled out of court for millions of dollars with those families.
Yes.
Which is an awful shame, because that might set a precedent for other gun companies to be sued later.
Well, yes, that is horrible. And even like the president of the United States saying that how come the gun industry is the only industry that can't be sued for anything. That is a horrendous lie.
Right.
So if I'm a drunk driver and I run over a group of kids that are waiting for the school bus,
right, they're not coming after Toyota
Ford or whatever vehicle I'm driving.
Right.
If anything, and the firearm industry can be sued if they manufactured something incorrectly and it caused an injury, then they can be sued.
But so can Chevrolet or whomever. Right. And it should be that way. If Procter Silex blenders all of a sudden were chopping people's fingers off, they would get sued, which is, I guess a side topic, but they say like, oh, well, this gun is garbage or that gun is trash. I'm like, well, there's definitely differences in quality, but there's no such thing as a bad gun, because if there was, it would have blown up on somebody and they wouldn't be in business anymore. Like people bag on Taurus all the time. Yeah, they're budget guns, but they're not trash. If they were trash, they wouldn't be in business.
Right. I think they're, for the most part, they're good guns.
I do too.
High Point. Yeah,
yes.
They only have a few models or whatever, but they never had a recall.
That's a really good point. One more thing, and then I got a split, and that was in 2008, DC versus Heller overturned that Miller bill that we'd learned about from 1939. DC versus Heller was a big deal, and I wish that I knew more about it. Unfortunately, I got a black line over a lot of the stuff, and I didn't do any of my own research.
Well, Gunsplaining, what we're going to do is we're going to revisit this topic here in a couple of weeks, and we'd love to have you back on.
Perfect.
And we're going to kind of pick up at that Brady handgun bill, and we're going to kind of brush over the rest of the U.S. laws as we've been doing. And then I kind of want to hit more of the historic things of disarming people and what it, disarming populations and the negative impacts thereof. So
I would love that.
We will revisit this again. We very much appreciate you coming on. I'll see you tomorrow for lunch.
Right on. Right on.
Enjoy your studies.
Thank you. Good seeing you, Matt. Can't wait to come down and see you guys.
Enjoy your Bible studies. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition.
That's right. All right, guys, I'm out.
All right, see you.
We'll see you, bud. All right, so I'm having a great time debating. Well, not even debating, just, talking about this topic. It's something that's very important to our hobby and the rights of the people in the U.S. that shall not be infringed, and the whole 9 yards of it. So
yes, and we do want to get more in depth on the history of disarming a population.
yes,
Nothing good has ever came from disarming a population. The only
correct.
thing that has come from disarming a population is a
Genocide.
higher death toll
Yeah.
by the government that was protecting their people.
Right, and I started some research today. I kind of neglected the fact that this week was a deep dive. I thought we were just gonna kind of talk. So, but
Skip some rocks across the water rather than deep dive into it.
right, exactly. Beautiful analogy as always. So, but as we go forward and we start practicing these deep dive episodes more and more, like we're gonna get really into the roots and the teeth of everything. So, that's just kind of like the precursor, little trial run on a deep dive situation, and we're gonna revisit that topic. We could probably do that topic once a month until the end of time. I mean, there's just so much meat there.
Absolutely. I mean, we can do some real deep spelunking into it. Like the Brady Bill. The Brady Bill was named after the individual who was shot when Reagan was shot. He was shot in the head, and Reagan was shot down the liver, I believe. He was shot in the side. I'll have to double check. Like you said, deep dive. I'll have to spelunk into the details.
Right.
But Brady survived the headshot wound.
Impressive.
Right. And was wheelchair bound. And, I mean, you can imagine. But the bill was named after him due to the individual using a handgun to try to assassinate the president. So that story in itself would take a couple hours to go through and explain. Brady's wife was very passionate about that and trying to get it passed and everything. Which, yeah, by rights. I mean, what else would you do to try to protect your loved ones in the perspective from where you're standing, right? You're trying to do right. I'm not saying that she did wrong. She's trying to do right. You could argue the fact, no one take this the wrong way, but if he had died there on the street versus being in a wheelchair and having to be taken care of, would that passion have been growing that whole time to try to get that bill passed? Right? It may have been something that just fell to the wayside, which you don't want to fall to the wayside. You want everyone to be able to protect and defend themselves and live a happy, normal, free life. But how you make sure that some people are safe, right? You have, let me jump over to sports. You have that one gentleman with the big hair that kneels, every time. And for some of it, it's the right reason, right? If there is police brutality against one specific race, yeah, I can see that. But how about you have a communication and talk about that through a lot of other things rather than just talking about how awesome you are and you only kneel at certain times, right? I mean, the spotlight's on you. And he'll sit there and say that we need to defund the police to make communities better, to be able to invest that money into the community. So if we take away millions of dollars from the police, we can invest that money into the community. Well, if that money is now invested in the community, who's there to make sure the community's investment is going to be taken care of? Investing into the police is a way to maintain your community. Because without the police, crime's going to go up. So businesses are going to close. Everything's just going to collapse, right? That's not an investment in the community. It's making the community into a cesspool of crime. So I understand his perspective, but unfortunately his perspective isn't with any thought. So when people holler off that we need to disarm people to make other people safer, that's not using any actual thought.
Yeah, in a situation like that, the goal is more to obtain an equilibrium. Like, you're not going to remove all dangerous devices from the hands of humans. So
Right.
if you start removing more, then you're going to just, you start removing more from the hands of good people or positive people or those that don't want to do ill unto others, then you're just going to have a greater, what's the word I'm looking for?
Turd?
You're going to have a greater turd. That's perfect. You're going to have a greater, I don't know, density of,
Yes.
ill-doing items in the hands of those that want to do ill-doing.
Mm-hmm. If you look into history in like Poland and other countries during World War II and before World War II, well, through any of the wars or anything, they told their people, hey, we need to kind of, not let everyone have a gun. It's for your safety. Crime's kind of going up, so let's keep this calm. Well, crime still went up because not as many people were armed, right? So you and a few of your friends kicking in the front door and taking people's things and destroying what they have is pretty easy when you kick the front door open and you don't catch a bullet to the chest, right? So everyone needs to be able to defend themselves. So then the government says, hey, why don't we just, everyone who, has a gun, come let us know the serial number, what the gun looks like, and all that stuff. Let us know how many guns you have. And that way, if we find a gun that was used in a crime, we can find out who caused the crime. They go, oh, well, that makes sense. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm going to follow that because that kind of makes sense. But you don't think the whole scenario all the way through. Because now they say, well, crime is on the rise again. We're going to come and take all of your guns.
And we know exactly where they are.
They didn't sell them to you to begin with. And now they want to buy them back from you. Mm-hmm. So you can turn in your guns and there'll be less guns, less crime. Crime goes up even more. So now they got to go door to door and take all your guns because they have a full list of who has them.
I'm sorry to hear your loss, Tyler.
Tyler lost all of his guns in a boating accident.
I hope the fish enjoy them as much as you once did.
Right. I mean, hopefully, like a reef or something can be, grown off of it. So, but anyways, going back to history, or even Australia, right? That's pretty darn recent. They take the guns away from the people and crime goes up. And then COVID comes by and you have to stay in your house. And now, you don't have to stay in your house. We're putting you into a camp. We're putting you in COVID camps. So now they have concentration COVID camps. Well, just COVID camps. For their people that have to stay there, whether they have COVID or not, even if they're suspected of it. So where's their civil liberties? Where is their way to defend themselves against that? Right? So nothing good has ever come from disarming a population.
Yeah, it's a sad topic. It's one that instills fear for the future in a lot of ways. We're always constantly battling for our rights, trying to maintain them, because if you don't learn from history, then you're doomed to repeat it. So us knowing the history of disarming a populace, we see those potential situations where that might happen or could potentially happen in one way or another in the U.S. and it fills us with a great sense of fear and concern for our families and the well-being of our country and everything that we've worked for leading up to this moment.
Yes. And if, like you said, if you don't learn from your past, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it, right? So if while there are protests destroying history, removing history from our nation, right? So people allow others to destroy history so we can't learn from it. Well, what's going to happen? If you get rid of all the history of how slaves became free and how so many white people fought for freedom, right? It wasn't only slaves and black people, right? There were people from other countries that came here to do it as well. It was the American Civil War, but there was a lot involved in it. Okay.
Actually, on that topic, there's that's going to be deep dive in the future. It's going to,
Ooh.
very precarious subject, but just slavery as a whole. I found a very good YouTube channel. I'm going to blank on it's a black professor speaking about like the truth of slavery across time, and that it's still going on, and that it's not always been race against race slavery. There's been many civilizations in Europe and everything that have enslaved their own people, their own neighbors, to utilize them for hard labor and everything, and that
Romans did it for centuries.
Yeah. So the whole idea of it that we're going to kind of deep dive on that episode is like, the entire encompassing image of what slavery is, and that it's still going on. And, of course, there's no bright side to it, but to try to delve into that and really get the true history out of it instead of the, America specific history or the Africa specific or what have you.
Right. And that American specific historic slavery that we fought to abolish, we abolished slavery. Why do others want a new generation to not understand why we abolished it? Why are you only standing up and shaking your fists at the sky, but you have no idea as to why you're standing there?
That's fair.
And in time, you may look down and realize you're standing in a pile of poo-poo.
Yeah, the shit. Tyler says a good point is trafficking is a form of slavery that continues to be rampant, and I think arguably potentially the highest rate that it's ever been. It's a huge issue, and it's, rarely even spoken about, like, of course, the media, but it's not one of those issues that we communicate even within like closer circles often enough.
Yeah, they mention sex trafficking. Well, sex trafficking is slavery.
Yes.
Right? So,
and it's all around us.
It's all around us. I live 10 minutes away, or we live 10 minutes away from one of the largest trafficking locations in Ohio. So the Belden Village Mall area, right?
Makes sense that I've always wanted to be well armed in that area.
Yeah, I don't like going to that area. I don't think I'm going to get sex trafficked. Anyways.
IPAs.
Yes, I got a couple IPAs. I don't have fear of getting pulled into that evil world of heinous crimes. But I still don't want to go there. Right? It doesn't give you a good vibe. I don't understand why any parent in this area would allow their kids to go to the Belden Village Mall area by themselves, unsupervised. Right? Without at least a few knives and a Rottweiler. So,
you said heinous crimes, but it sounded like anus crimes to me, and also Tyler. So I just wanted to point that out because it was kind of important. Anus crimes. You don't want to be involved in anus crimes. It's an insensitive joke, but it's a funny one.
Yes. So, heinous.
Yeah.
I'll either take that word from my dictionary or enunciate it more clearly next time.
I prefer you remove it from your dictionary so we have no further confusions.
Okay. Well,
It happened here, folks.
That's like the adorable story of your sister.
Yeah.
Who was little, and I'm playing with her in the shopping cart and getting checked out at the grocery store. And instead of her saying, "Daddy, you're ridiculous," because I'm being ridiculous to her, she just looks at me and says, "Daddy, you're dickless." Right? I just looked at her. I said, "Daddy is ridiculous." I looked at the cashier, who was she looked to be a grandparent age, and she just kind of like looked like she's holding back a laugh. And I said, "Well, how adorable is that? I'm going to love this story forever." She busted up laughing, and she said, "I'm telling everyone this story." I said, "I hope you do."
That's great.
So yeah, enunciation comes in handy.
It does indeed.
Yeah.
Wow. We're kind of let's stray away from the dark world of gun rights revocations and disarming populations for genocides, nature, and things of that. I got like two things I kind of like to discuss. One's still kind of in the firearm realm.
Okay.
In the law realm. I'm just going to keep on tiptoeing around it. How do you feel about the new constitutional carry that Ohio has officially passed and goes into effect in like 88 days or whatever?
I think it's 88 days.
Might 89. I don't know. It was 90.
Okay, it might be 89 days. So somewhere in later. I'm okay with it, but I also want people to be responsible with it, right? And I could debate either side. I could debate against it, or I could debate for it, right?
Me also.
I mean, I can see the plus and minuses on everything. Okay?
And it also has impacts to you personally.
It does. So the right to bear arms shall not be infringed is a right that everyone should have. Okay. And I know. Yeah. I have seen people who have maybe, I don't want to say no right. They do have the right to be able to defend themselves and own a firearm, and to have one with them to defend them and or the loved ones around them. But the capacity for the knowledge that they have of what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, how to manipulate things properly, and whether they need to or not to, right? The quickest fight to win is the one that you're not in. Right? If you can get the hell out of there, get the hell out of there. Someone who doesn't have any training at all carrying a firearm can be just as dangerous to themselves and the ones around them as the threat could be. Okay? Because fear and panic and things do incredible things to your body, right? Your what I call a pooper pucker situation. That's when your butthole hits your diaphragm, right? It's puckering so tight. Your adrenaline is now peaked. Your heart rate is up. Your fine motor skills go out the window, and you can only caveman things.
Right. Even you gave me very thorough firearms training growing up. I've always been exposed to them, and you've taught me how to utilize them and how to pie those corners in the house when maybe I was too young for you to be teaching me how to clear a building by my lonesome. But so like I grew up on a lot of that information. And even when I started getting into utilizing those live firearms in like a moving scenario and everything without bullets flying past me, it was still such a high adrenaline scenario that it kind of put me into a reality check. Like the first time I shot USPSA, I was running around running around that range and trying to engage targets while also counting rounds and reloading and looking at my surroundings. And you have the timer in your ear, so you're trying to go fast but accurate, and all of those things compile together. And even in a sporting environment, it's such an intense situation that some of my very well practiced motor skills started to kind of go by the wayside. So that is a huge concern for me. And I'd like to point out another one of Tyler's comments. Thanks for hopping in here and commenting. He said he's not very much a fan. He's very pro 2A, but not everyone is responsible or mature enough to be held to that level of account. And that kind of takes a mind down a lot of different paths. One way that I've always kind of contemplated that would be a good solution for a lot of the predicaments we have as far as gun violence in the U.S. is they're so integrated within our culture and they're not going away. So why don't we integrate firearm education into the Common Core curriculum? It's like something that Sweden does. I believe it may not be that country, but one of the countries like provides a firearm to their citizens when they reach a certain age.
I think Sweden, Switzerland, Israel. Yeah, there's multiple countries that do it.
Right, and they don't have nearly, if not even comparable levels of gun violence in their countries due to that, because a lot of violence.
It's not gun violence. It's just violence utilizing a gun. Right.
A lot of violence across the board is born from ignorance. It's not understanding the fragility of life and the luck of it being in existence. It's not understanding just, the preciousness of life and what it means to actually be combative and, to inflict pain upon someone else. And we're not even just violent, make a person bleed pain, but just pain in general has such a aggressive impact on someone's survivability and their intellect and their peace and well-being that you can't comprehend that unless you have a good person in your life or a good education system to provide that information to you. I wouldn't be a level-headed, kind person saying hello to nice people in the grocery store if I wasn't brought up by a family that instilled those values within me. If I wasn't taught to be so forthcoming and gentle and kind-natured to all these people I come across in my life, I'm not sure that I would have those characteristics. So
right.
I think we can very much contribute the lack of compassion and sympathy in the U.S., not just with gun violence, but with everything across the board, to a lack of education, because our Common Core education system sucks, and that takes us on another deep dive episode I'll put on the list. So
true. So everyone has the right to be able to defend themselves and those around them, right? You may not have the skill set to do it. You should learn the skill set. I think with anything that you do, you should learn more. You should expand your comfort zone in it, right? So a couple of years ago, you'd send me some pictures of the food you were cooking and look good. Now you send me pictures of the food you're cooking. I'm like, that's good restaurant quality meal right there. I mean,
this shit's at 4 stars officially.
Exactly. I'm salivating and like, wow, that's like, woo, right? So whatever it is that you get into, you should learn more and grow your skills and your comfort level. Like Tyler, who's been mentioning things. If he wants to know about photography, he learns about photography. He gets the right equipment. He doesn't just start, you're right. He goes all in. He wants to learn something else. He's going to go all in, right? You have to build your skills and build other skills that will help those initial skills. Mm-hmm. So for people being able to carry, I understand that it is the Constitution and it's their right, and I'm fine with that. I swore an oath to protect the Constitution.
I also support that.
I also urge people to get training. Right?
You can never have enough training.
You can never have enough training and practice, and training and practice. Okay. Plus, God forbid, if you ever did have to use your firearm, your training will help you during that point in time, right? Even if you're, like I said, your butthole hits your diaphragm and you're sucking in air, you sound like a harbor seal, and your eyes are bigger than my glasses, and you're firing off shots. Hopefully, your shots are accurate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all this panic's going to nail you, but hopefully, your training will help narrow any errors.
Yeah,
Okay?
I very much support. Like, I like the constitutional carry concept, and I mean, quite frankly, I'm happy that it's been instilled, because I think that that's a right. No step on snake. That's how it should be. But at the same time, I understand, even some of the closest people in my life, I look at them and I go, I wouldn't like to be in a gunfight alongside of you. And there are people that are well practiced in firearms and things. Even people that I trust to be alongside of, I don't want to be alongside of, if you know what I'm saying. So
yes,
it's very much
there's only
supported.
a couple people I trust with my back to the door if they're on the other side of the table,
Yes.
right? There's only a few people that I trust watching my six. I would rather watch everybody, right? So, if you're going to carry, Constitution carry or concealed carry, if you want to start off Constitution carry because you have a situation that you need to protect yourself, please do, right? Please be safe. Please start learning. Go to a concealed carry class. Get your concealed carry permit. Okay. Tyler, I think training is secondary to temperament. Yes, the proper mindset is extremely important.
Walk softly and carry a big stick.
Yes, but a friend of mine, I tried getting him into one of my concealed carry classes. Heck, this was 5-6 years ago. I was like, hey, you got to come to one of my classes. He's like, oh, I'm a hothead. I appreciate it, but I don't really trust myself. I'm like, well, he's also the type of person that, yes, he is a hothead and he's quick to the mouth as far as being verbal. But I think that if he was carrying and knew the potential outcomes, he would be a little more soft-spoken and a little bit more controlled with his emotions, right? Because right now, nothing's stopping him. Maybe he's like, I got a gun. If I do something stupid, I did something stupid, right? So, and stupid can be illegal. So you don't want to be stupid. So whether you're going to carry, if you're going to carry, get training.
Yes.
If you want to carry concealed and everything, please get training. Please practice. Please practice safety first. Get training. Get some type of insurance, right? So I have insurance. It's I have to renew that in May. I think in May we'll have to renew insurance. But I carry insurance because God forbid I have to use it. It's not going to be an easy, quick thing like it is in some of the movies where, like, well, hey, no problems. You shot him fair and square. See you later. There's going to be many years of crap and possible lawsuits and stress and and so having some type of insurance and find the right one that's going to be right for you. They're very affordable. They're, I don't know, $10, $20, $10, $15, $20 a month or whatever. There's some very good plans out there. I recommend that as well. So, and going back to like learning and everything, when I mentioned you cooking, you've learned more. You've learned more knife skills, right? You've learned more pan skills, how to brown the butter and do this or searing certain foods. You now know the difference because you had an interest in it and you wanted to. If you're going to carry, and you can if you want, because it's the law, please start growing your skills and your understanding and all your thoughts that go with it.
Yeah, and my previous spiel, I started to go off there, and then I forgot the latter half of what I was going to say. But it is
I probably interrupted you.
No. Oh, love that the Constitution carries the thing. Everybody has the right. Amazing. I can guarantee you that as soon as that's in effect, I'm going to have extra medical and extra ammunition on me, and I'm going to be looking over my shoulder a little bit more because I don't know. It's comforting knowing that most likely the guy in the ball cap next to me with a firearm on him went through the same hurdles that I went through to obtain my license. He probably has training. Now I know that there's going to be people that woke up on their 21st birthday and slid a fucking handgun into their waistband, no holster, and are walking around the streets. So I'm going to be a little bit more precarious.
Yes.
Careful. Yes.
And you should be. Right? So, it's just like being on the highway. Okay. I mean, I know I have a license. I know that I'm a safe driver. I know that I have insurance. I know that I'm abiding by the laws, right? But I'm also checking my mirrors to make sure that whatever yahoos behind me are doing that, I'm watching in front of me. I'm not just watching the taillight in front of me. I'm watching as far as my eyes can see, and it's, I'm looking everywhere because I want to be safe. I want to be able to react properly. That's the same thing with carrying a firearm. You need to be aware. You need to be safe. You need to react properly. If when you were younger and you weren't carrying, and let's say your sister and I were at the mall, or all your siblings and I are at the mall or whatever, and you're getting ice cream, and it's like, okay, well, what do you want? Oh, I want bubble gum. And now I start hearing shots go off. Well, I have 2 or 4 kids that I now have to protect. And people are screaming and being idiots. I'm probably tossing you guys all over the counter to wherever we're getting ice cream. I'm jumping over the counter and I'm going with you guys through the back door of that restaurant down to a concrete hallway that goes out to the dumpsters or whatever. We're getting the hell out of Dodge.
Right.
Just because.
Nope.
Glock 17 on me and maybe some spare ammo or whatever doesn't mean I'm going to engage. I have another responsibility at the time.
Correct. Protect your life, your family's lives, and if that means you have to utilize your firearm because the threat is immediate and direct, then that is our right. But yeah, don't go running and playing superhero, especially with your kids by your side.
Right. So
protect yourself.
With my family by my side, I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. Right. If you or I were there now, you and I would both be getting the hell out of Dodge, and we'd be utilizing our firearms to get out of Dodge. If Julie and I were somewhere and something happened, both of us would be getting the hell out of Dodge together. And if something happened, we would utilize our firearms to get the hell out of Dodge. Right?
I think you and I could clear the fuck out of some concrete mall hallways.
Church.
Or we'd hear some shots and be like, that sounds like... Yeah, that's good. Or we'd hear those shots and we'd be like, that sounds like 9mm. Fuck it, Pa. Let's go.
Let's go. Right. So, but you have to decide whether you're going to do that or not, because you have to realize we're not sworn federal agents or officers of the law in any regards, right? Having a concealed handgun license does not give you the authority to be a police officer, right? To do certain things. Now, running into the food court because you heard shots fired and now you see someone shooting and you shoot them.
Were they the
who's
guy
to
that
say
was
that
already
you
engaging the guy? Things
right?
are very precarious.
Yeah,
I know I utilized
I
the
may
right
have
guy
shot
for
a concealed handgun holder or an undercover or off-duty police officer who was trying to stop the threat. Now I just shot the good guy who was trying to stop the bad guy, and now I have to reconfigure and see what the hell's going on, and the bad guy's got a beat on me, right?
And
So
that's where
you have
training
to
comes into
decide
play.
whether you're going to engage or not.
Yeah,
Or
speaking
not.
of, we should get some new updated airsoft Glock handguns here soon and practice shooting each other. You know, running some scenarios and stuff. You will not believe the technology these days, Dad. I'll tell you what. Gas
I'm gonna
blowback.
try. I mean, it's been a long time since I scaled the neighbor's house, and
I don't want to talk about that. You fucking stealthy little snake. So, yeah, and I would like to kind of reapproach that constitutional carry with Rick when he comes back, and we keep doing our deep dive, and that's probably going to become a recurrent theme. There's one more thing I like to touch on. We're kind of approaching our average time before we end this situation, and I kind of have to piss like a mule. So, what do you know about the new NASA rocket? Let's take a science diversion.
Ooh, rockets.
Mm-hmm.
This is more of your field.
This
as
my
far
wheelhouse.
as what's new and up to date.
Tomorrow, tentatively, the largest NASA rocket. I know it has more thrust. I don't know the exact size comparison to the Saturn V, but it's the rocket that is to launch humans into space to again go to the moon. And the first iteration for Artemis Mission 1, which will be an uncrewed orbit around the moon and return. Artemis, yes, sir. Thank you, Tyler. So the SLS is rolling out tomorrow to the pad. It looks something like this. It's a beautiful piece of engineering. I think it's hydrolocks. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's got, two side boosters. Basically, it's a safer kind of reconfiguring of the components that made up the shuttle. Instead of a shuttle, it's going back to the capsule design that's on the top of the rocket. And then you have the classic like aluminum rocket fuel tank core with the classic orange foam. And then you have two solid rocket boosters. And I don't know exactly when launch is going to happen, but they're aiming for it to be before the end of the year for Artemis 1. And then thereafter, Artemis 2, I think, is a crewed mission to kind of test out the Orion capsule. And then Artemis 3, I think, tentatively is to actually go into, lunar orbit with people and hopefully land on the moon, which will be utilizing the SpaceX human landing system, which is basically a Starship configured just for between the moon and moon's orbit. So it'll go up, it'll refuel with some refueling starships, because of course there's going to be many different components or variations of the Starship design. So they will launch the HLS Starship, complete with the fucking elevator and everything. Biggest thing, it's crazy, but that'll go up. It'll refuel after a couple of flights by tanker starships, and then it'll go to the moon. It'll dock with now I forget exactly what they're calling this, the Gateway, I believe. It's going to be basically a small space station that orbits the moon. So Orion capsule launches on SLS with the astronauts, docks to the Gateway. Human landing system by SpaceX, basically a Starship, comes and docks with the Gateway. They transfer into the Starship and land on the moon. And basically, based on tentative design currently, even the lunar variant of the Starship is going to have a greater internal pressurized living space volume than the current International Space Station, which often occupies at least 7 astronauts and cosmonauts. So a step towards the return of the moon and beautiful human engineering and space and scientific history hopefully happens tomorrow. The classic crawler that, before took the shuttle out to the launch pad there at 39 something or another. I know SpaceX has taken ownership of 39A, I believe, that used to launch the Saturn V rockets to the moon. Now launches Falcon 9 rockets and Falcon 9 heavies and what have you.
Nice.
some more space news. We'll do some rapid fire. They're currently working on the foundation for the Starship launch platform, Stage 0 launch tower situation for the Starship down there at Cape Canaveral, Florida, Kennedy Space Center. So a lot is happening. We're going to eventually, very soon here, see some huge rockets capable of crazy fucking things standing next to each other and going to space simultaneously. And it's just a beautiful time for space and engineering and science and everything.
Humanity. Hopefully humanity, I don't want to say cures itself, but humanity maintains itself before it starts spreading itself through the galaxy. So,
yes. Also, the Starship 420 Booster 4 Ship 20 again stacked today. Second time via the chopsticks on the launch, landing, catching everything Stage 0 tower. So again, it is looking something like this. Since I pull it up here, that's a tiny ass photo, but we'll make it blurry.
Hey, get in there and take a look.
Yeah, you just see that. So yeah, while Jeff Bezos is launching his penis into space with celebrities the likes of Pete Davidson and Will Shatner and what have you, SpaceX and NASA are doing the real cool shit. Specifically SpaceX, because I am honestly, admittedly, a bit of a fanboy, but look at the fucking Starship and everything else they've done. And they just celebrated 20 years.
How awesome for William Shatner in his 90s to actually go into space.
Yeah, no, that's fucking dope. And
yes,
you'll have to, I don't know if you saw the post flight footage, but they're interviewing William Shatner and he's having this like beautiful, overwhelming realization of what, the overview effect looking down the earth. And like, he's just been to space and he's like, holy shit, I'm a human being. We all got to get along. And Jeff Bezos is like, no, I'm Jeff Bezos. Just like kind of being like a kind of elusive, don't care what you're talking about, Will Shatner dick there on the fucking landing site. So it's like, it's real cringy, but you can tell that William Shatner just like, it changed his fucking world. He's probably still sitting on the couch like, I cannot fucking believe that it actually looks like that,
It is round.
Yeah. What? I thought this bitch was a pancake for sure. So, yeah, and that's all I had planned for the evening. There's my space spiel. There's our introductory deep dive into the gun laws and restricting humans' rights to defend themselves and
taking away their rights to defend themselves and the best means to defend themselves so that you can enslave or annihilate them. So yeah, fantastic, good times. Yeah. But the positive side is space, and I love you.
I love you too. Thanks. Is that the new outro? I know I tasked you with the homework of preparing a proper outro. What you got?
I don't know. My screen went blank as soon as you asked me that. That was perfect timing. What do you got? You like the Warner Brothers. The final frontier. Indeed.
Yeah. There you fucking have it.
There you have it. So, I failed you. I did not come up with a extraordinary nighty-night kind of bye-bye thing for our podcast. So
that's okay. I'll wing one again this week. You got to get next week. Also, I winged
that's the way it is right now today on the
16th.
16th
of March,
day,
2022, 7:42 p.m. Daylight Savings Time, Eastern Standard Time. I freeballed the intro today because I'd like to change our intro a little bit. I'm going to make it shorter, more concise. We can do some more descriptions and things, kind of keep the old intro maybe in the description of the videos and whatnot. So I'm going to toy with that. But for the time being, stay safe, fight tyranny, keep your eyes on the moon.
Outstanding.
And we fucking love y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Tyler, appreciate the comments. Gunsplaining, if you look back at this, thank you for coming on again. Another thank you.
Gallery New England. We love y'all.
And Jojo, what's up? I know you up in this.
Big hugs.
Big hugs.
Hey,
Love
Julie.
y'all. Hi. All right, y'all. We out of here.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Outro music. Cue the light show. Bam.